Okay.
And Madam Clerk, we had removed an item.
Yes, at this time, staff would like to delete item 13C1.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna move item 9E to new business 12D. I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Going to do Commissioner Liaison reports and comments. Commissioner McBoyd?
Believe I haven't. It probably occurred,
Vice Mayor?
Nothing terribly much to report, other than I have been working with Senator Nelson's office and Senator Frankel's office, extending an invitation for them to come into our city as we move forward and talk about how we may examine options to fund any type of infrastructure improvements. We're going to need all the help we can get from all of our friends in Washington at the state level, so I'm working on that right now, and I think they were both very receptive to the idea.
Commissioner Rosa?
A lot's been going on in the last couple of weeks. The NET team with the CRA did a cleanup in the Tropical Ridge Neighborhood Association. We had over 60 volunteers, so thank you, volunteers. Art Pop with the CRA was the first time this weekend. Huge turnout. The first time that the artists worked live spaces. The artists actually opened the lofts up to the public to look and buy their art. And the artists were very happy with the turnout. They sold a lot of pieces of art. Seafood Fest was this last weekend, which is one of our signature events, new signature events for the city of Lake Worth. Again, beautiful. Mother Nature took very good care of us, and sand sculpting and great turnout. The planners downtown are being painted the Lula colors, the Art Pop colors, and the new bike racks went in and around the plaza and downtown. Everything looks great. Thank you again for Lula and the CRA.
Okay, we'll talk when we talk more about infrastructure in the next couple of weeks or whatever. Doing the same thing as the Vice Mayor too, meeting with, scheduling, organizing with our federal and state officials and some people in Washington on the new transportation cabinet that's all there, Anthony Fox, and trying to get some information on the funding. And we'll talk more about that again in the near future. All right, public participation of non-agended items and the consent agenda items. So now, if you would like, anyone who wants to talk about whatever can put in a card, or anyone who wants to talk about any of the items that are on the consent agenda can speak at this point. And then be sure to put in a card if you have anything on the agenda you want to talk about. Please put in a card for that as well. Alrighty, Mr. Tim, followed by Loretta Sharp.
Peter Chen, yes, I'm happy that Commissioner Zerdy is not here, because the last week he did ask me about the teeth in the ordinances you have written. I thought his answer was, the answer that he got didn't make any sense to me, and I'm surprised it made sense to anybody up there. But he was told that, code enforcement will give the summonses out, and if they don't do that, then the police department will get involved and they'll settle it. We've had the police department here all my life. The police department has never settled anything for us on post fines or in any other way. So where do you come up with telling us that these people are going to all of a sudden hit them with a billy club and they'll fix up their properties or do something similar to that? So I was very disappointed in his answer, and I hope you people were also. I also would like to talk on the resolution A on the consent agenda, that last time I complained about all this money that you are spending on food and drinks, and you said, oh, it's just a cake. Well, it isn't. It is for food and beverages. There are 24 items listed on the place that they can do it, and it includes 2 banquets. You're not going to serve coffee and cake at a banquet. What are you people doing? please try to conserve some of our money to be spent for things that we really do need. Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta Sharp.
Loretta Sharp, 1311 South Palmer. Well, it was quite a weekend. I went over to the sand sculpture twice. There was no parking anywhere. Michelle also went over, and she couldn't find parking. But I did get to the lofts, and they're lovely. And the people that I met there, I didn't go through all of them, but the people I met there were friendly and informative what they were doing, and it was quite a weekend. You should be very, very proud of yourselves. I am very proud of all 5 of you that sit on this commission, what they are doing to just the morale of Lake Worth. You're just building up the morale. I sell real estate, I meet a lot of people every day. And Lake Worth is turning around. The values are going up, the commercial values are going up, and I think we're on the right track. And I thank you very much.
Long way to go.
Thank you. Okay, Mike Capo? Mr. Capo's asked if we could extend the time, as there has been a formal petition filed with the city. Pam, I'm gonna hand this over to you. And ask that, since a number of the people here also speak a different language and that might need some interpretation, it might take a little bit longer to do that. So can we perhaps extend an extra
Yes.
2 minutes or so?
Yes.
Does that work for you, Pam?
Madam Chair, we're about 20 of us over here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here. We're very, very proud to be in the city of Lake Worth. I've been in this city for 27 years, 6 months of the year, because we are one of the snow bird. But I've seen some change, and it's only for the better. But you know, as the years gone by, I've seen the things taken away from us. We used to have the bocce court at the, you know, not aware because it was before your time. We used to have a bocce court at the park. We used to have a nice time between us and you know, the public. Now they only got the horse. I mean, there for years they've been there, and they've taken away. We complain about having you know, something, and they took it away from us. We used to have the trolley bus. My mother used to have, and her friends used to ride those, but beautiful, have been taken away from us. Now, the big issue is getting at the staker parking for the beach. We've been penalized. Now we need a driver license, a Florida driver license, to have the beach parking. I don't see no reason. The most, even if we need a driver license, I would be delighted, but having a Canadian driver license, which is honored all over the world, we come to Florida, to get a Florida license, I need to go for another examination? That's hilarious. I don't mind getting a Florida license. Here, I have a license. I've been driving for 50 years. I need to go for another examination. It's not fair. It's not only me. It's thousands of people from abroad concerned. We used to have, you know, signs, neighborhood watch, you know, signs there. You know, I like to be a volunteer if it's, but we don't see those anymore. At the park there now, you know, they're working, you know, at the park there, you know, every time I go there, I don't see any work. Like 3 days, 4 days, where are the people working? I don't know. And the most concern, like in Canada, I don't know if you're aware, like if I have a property, like I have a house in one municipality, I have another house in another municipality, I have the right to vote in that municipality because I pay tax in that municipality. Here we have no rights whatsoever. If we need to hire a lawyer to change this, you know, we should have the right to vote. for you. For you, for you, for you. We have property, that's where the money goes. Doesn't go to Washington. We don't have no right to vote for it, and we should have the right to vote for you. And that's most concern. Another concern is tax. I'm paying $3,500 for my tax. Somebody has a homestead, pay only $1,000. What can we do to change this? It's not fair. It's the same house that next door to me, the same property, I have to pay $3,500, somebody else has to pay only $1,000. It's not fair. I don't know if you can help here, but this is our concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, thank you. Well, one thing I can say, good job. One thing I can say is that in regards to the vote and the tax part, that's not us, you know, that's state, yes? I'm sorry, federal. Okay.
If you can help me, how to do that, we can hire a lawyer and, you know, I mean, the Constitution was written years, there's an update to the Constitution, sometimes it's been done.
Right. Go ahead,
I'm
you're
just
chomping at the bit.
No, do we have other folks who are going to speak tonight?
No,
Oh,
this is speaking on behalf.
And let's address.
Let's go around and.
Different country.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that, in reference to the bocce court, I didn't realize that was looking out, I wasn't aware of that, in fact, I thought it was still there. The trolley, that was, again, removed at a time back when, because of the affordability of it, and it's certainly something that everybody would like back again, because we really need that transportation. You know, the east-west transportation that doesn't exist anymore on the county level, and it used to. And now the buses aren't even coming that way, so it's become more and more important, but we have to make sure that we have ridership for it to actually support it so it can stick around and we don't lose it again the way we did last time. The neighborhood watch, I see some neighborhood signs are going up in regards to that. And as for the sticker at the beach, I've talked with a lot of residents about this. I understand it. I don't think it's right either. I mean, to be really, really honest, I'm not thrilled about it. But we got into a predicament in reference to the parking situation at the beach and the limited amount of spaces that were available. Basically, the county came in and put that plan together and they gave us 50 spots. That's for all the residents.
Yeah, but what about the snowbird?
Well, that's exactly, and I'm sorry, I'm not usually allowed to respond to it that way, but I want to address you. I agree with you about the snowbirds. The fact of the matter is we had a lot more parking spots in the past for our residents, and now there's only a total, we were only given a total of 50 by the county, because the county came in and did that project and gave us $5 million to do that project. And they only gave the city of Lake Worth, on the whole, 50 spots. So I don't know, city manager, if you want to address.
Well, I think, and based on some of Mike's comments, you stated that you thought you had to get a license, and it's your residency is the requirement. You have to be a full-time Lake Worth resident to buy a decal. You don't have to buy, even if you got a Florida license, you're technically still not a full-time resident the way the code's written. And I just want to clarify that. We're not asking you to change your license. It's the fact that you don't declare that this isn't your full-time home as a full-time resident. So that's the differentiation in the code. What the mayor's referring to is back in the day when the whole parking area, there was over 700 spaces, you could use your decal anywhere. Now there's just 50. And the code allows only residents to park there. We've sold over 1,000 decals to the residents for those 50 spaces, not including if you included, you know, the non-residents at once. So it's a real predicament, and it's based partly because we took a grant from the county in order to rebuild the beach, and it's just one of those unfortunate circumstances. So I hope that clarifies the license. We're not asking you to change your license. It's more because of your residency than it is.
We still pay tax, just like.
Yeah, I understand that. That's absolutely true.
And we pay more.
And it's the
than
same thing.
residents.
It's the same thing if you own a business in the city. That doesn't make you a resident, but you pay even more taxes they don't get decals either, so.
And they can't
It's
vote.
not fair, it's not fair. Yeah.
Commissioner Emerson?
Madam Attorney, is it something that we could look at if it was an option to change our ordinance to allow our residents, because I also get it, I understand, we have a lot of seasonal people, again, they pay more taxes.
Yes, and we spend lots of money.
I'm sorry, you have to quiet in the chambers.
Is
Or
there
else, I'm sorry,
something
I
that
have
we
to-
can look at changing our ordinance or our code to accommodate
Yes.
seasonal?
Yes, and what the manager was speaking to was the requirements we have laid out in the code for this parking decal. So the commission could reconsider the restrictions set forth in that ordinance to relax them, to allow for someone who maybe is only a part-time resident, and that would be up to the commission's purview and discretion as to whether or not you wanted to change that ordinance. But that is something that you could look at, certainly doing.
Because years ago, when we were actually doing the studies, when the past commission, we inherited this, the past commission was looking at the issues. There was, at any given time, we had sold 1,200 parking passes, now we're at about 1,000. Back then, we charged a little bit more for seasonal, and I'm not opposed to that. And at any given time, especially during the week, those lots aren't full. Back in the day, we looked at, at any given time, if we had 50 spots, only 35 were being utilized. So, I'd like to maybe take a second look at that and see what we're looking at now and see if that's an option for opening it up to seasonal.
If I might just add to that, Commissioner Emerson, there also was a time in which if you lived permanently in the city of Lake Worth, or if you owned property, meaning either commercial property or residential property, so if you were a renter only seasonally, then you couldn't apply for it. But if you owned property of any kind, either commercial or residential, again, you could apply for that pass, and that's something also that I know we've talked about,
that we can look at.
looking at it as well.
And
Is there-
then
Okay, go ahead,
moving
finish.
on, again, there's a lot of new faces in here that we haven't seen or heard from. Please let us know what your concerns are. The bocce game, this is the first I've heard of that. So I don't know why it was taken out or what happened to it.
It was a fitness park about 2 years ago.
Okay, and again, I don't play bocce, so I wasn't privy to that, and this is, like Mayor said, this is the first we're hearing of that. The neighborhood watch, I can tell you that there are quite a few neighborhood watches in the community, and not very many people show up. So I can't tell you why you had signs and you don't anymore, but most likely it's because the turnout and the support wasn't there, and it just went away. So neighborhood watch needs you, as residents, to actually organize it. The sheriff's department will come out and help and work with you, but it actually takes a group to organize it. And that's most of the time outside what the neighborhood associations are doing. Sometimes they implement it in, but it's actually a separate group. Parking, we just addressed the parking. The vote and taxes are federal. The only other thing I wanted to comment, and I thought maybe it was a concern of yours, but I didn't hear it tonight, is the flooding in and around the base of the bridge. We had some huge rains a couple months ago, and at that time we had a lot of calls and concerns that the city was not maintaining the actual drainage. I can tell you, I personally went out, John Zerdy went out, and we actually climbed down and looked into the drainage, and it was clear on our side. We did identify, I'm a native, we did identify, ever since I was a child, the base of the bridge floods. It's the lowest lying area, and if it's high tide, it has nowhere to go. A couple weeks ago, we had a huge rainstorm, lots of flooding, and we receded very quickly, with the exception of the base of the bridge took a little longer. Lantana and Boynton stayed flooded for days. We did not. So that tells us, again, the drainage is working, but again, it's low-lying. What I've done is we've met with the city manager and Department of Transportation, because that street is actually DOT, Department of Transportation, and they've come out and looked at it and they are addressing it. So we'll continue to update you on that and see where it goes. But again, that area, ever since I can remember, has flooded. It's one of the lowest lying, and unfortunately, we're trying to address it and look at it, but there's no easy fix.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It's good to see you all. I know we all appreciate the contribution that you make to the city. The fact that you keep coming back year after year after year. We appreciate the financial impact that you make in our city. But I have a suggestion I think that might be just a little bit one up on Commissioner Amoroso. I would suggest, and City Manager, tell me if this is practical, if you all could find a spokesperson or come together and give us a window during the calendar year, and maybe we could have the folks from your communities, the snowbirds, come together and we'll have a workshop. And we'll talk about these issues because, sir, some of the things that you brought up tonight were things that were done years and years and years ago. So it sounds to me like, little by little, these things have been kind of, chipping away and kind of irritating you. What we need to do is kind of bring everybody together and give you all the same message and let you ask the questions and have a greater understanding of why we are doing the things we are doing today, why we did things before. I think the communication will be very, very helpful. Does that sound practical and plausible?
Yeah.
So, sir, if you, at some point, reach out to the city manager and let's find a window in the calendar the next couple of months if you're all gonna be here. And then we'll leave it up to you to go out into your communities and market the idea. You come back to us and say, look, we're gonna have 50 people, 100 people, 200 people. We'll figure out where we can put on an event, a workshop, if you will. And you can write down all of your concerns or questions in advance. The staff can take those questions and we can come up with a presentation that we can give to that snowbird community. Does that sound like a plan?
Thank you
Is
very
everybody
much.
in agreement to that? Would that work for everybody up here? Okay,
Very good.
thank you.
Commissioner McWay?
Thank you, and I'd like to follow on Commissioner Maxwell's thanking you for coming. It's always nice for us who have to sit and make decisions to see folks from the community, especially folks we don't always see. I do want to come back to a couple points. The idea of having a workshop is certainly a good one, and I would encourage that as well. But I also don't want to give false expectations. Things like feeling that it's unfair that you pay different taxes than somebody who's a full-time resident is homesteaded, that's nothing that we have no control over that. That's a state law, and you can take it up with state legislators. I don't think you'll get anywhere, but it just is how it is. Similarly, the right to vote here, that's a federal thing. It's not something that we have any control of. So those, they're unhappy, but they are the way they are. So there's no point worrying. On the neighborhood watch, as was mentioned, that's actually now organized not by the city, but by Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. There is a process. You can contact, I believe it's Joel Morgan's turn still. And you can contact them. I've talked to people who've organized them. It's a fair amount of work. There are quite a bit of requirements to do it, but it's possible. You just have to be able to get a meeting of people together, and you have to keep the meetings going. So if signs go away, it may be that the meeting stopped happening. But it's doable. Trolley, as we've all said, if we win the lottery up here, we're definitely buying a trolley, maybe two. But at the moment, we're still a little tight. I think you mentioned horseshoes right after the bocce, and I would.
Horseshoes are still there.
That's still.
Are they still there? Okay, I thought I'd seen them at one point, but I put a question mark on it.
You have to bring your own shoes.
Well, that's probably okay. But I remember that there was a bocce court, and I would. Yeah, at some point, these things, they come and go. On the beach stickers, just again to clarify, as you've probably noticed, the beach has been redone quite a bit. That money came from the county, which means that all the taxpayers in the county contributed. And because of that, we can't say, well, those are all parking spaces for Lake Worth. So we only got 50. Stick around a few years, maybe we'll get a few more quietly. But right now we get 50, and that we have to figure out how to divide them up. I would personally support, some arrangement. But our challenge is, let's say we sell 2,000 and there's only 50 spots, and every time you go, you have a sticker, but there's no room. Then you'll be back here and you'll say, I told you.
Can I say something at all? Can I say a word?
No, I'm sorry.
Technically you can't, but when we go on break, you can certainly ask it.
Definitely. And just to wrap this up too, like I said, I would just again for the record support looking at the rules the way they used to be in regards to owning property and in the city. I know that there's been both people from the business and the homeowner side that have been that used to have that advantage, and I do understand it, and I hope, along with Commissioner McVoy, my glass is always half full. We'll get those spots really soon.
Yeah.
But thank you all for coming out again, I appreciate it, and I want you to please feel free to contact us anytime. We have regular office hours here in City Hall. When something comes up, don't wait and let it fester. Come see us, because we're all around all the time, and we wanna take care of these things for you right away.
Thank you for your coming.
Thank you. Commissioner Zerdy?
First, excuse me for being tardy.
Hey, to see you over there.
Commissioner Zerdy is District 4, that's your area, that's your commissioner.
And
Commissioner Zerdy.
Quiet in the chambers. Marshall, quiet.
as you know, I come down from Fort Pierce on Tuesdays here. A little bit of traffic there, but first time I'm tardy since. But apologize for that. This weekend with the sand sculpture and the seafood festival, which was well attended, 620 some spaces there were pretty much full. But every time I have a decal,
3 times.
and I have a decal.
Quiet in the chambers.
And I was able to find a spot, luckily, people coming out, we had somebody there, staff was over there, making sure that somebody else didn't get in there. And even with something that intense, I took a chance, I thought, well, probably there isn't, if there isn't, okay, but I got lucky, and even still. So I think there's some leeway in here to look at this as well. So I've witnessed it, I go over there all the time, I'm close by, so. I love using the decal over there so I can take the rest of the walk. And but I think that there's room for us to negotiate something that'll work for everybody.
As long as we're enforcing, as long as we're
Oh yeah,
enforcing the.
I had a decal expire earlier in the year and I got a ticket, so they're enforcing it.
That was me, no. Thank you all again so much for coming. If I can pass these on.